Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20, and I'm very happy and excited to announce the release of Thaumcraft 4. That's right, Thaumcraft 4 is now publicly available for you guys to go ahead and download and start playing with in Minecraft version 1.6.4. It's totally different than it was in Thaumcraft 3. There's some familiarities and some concepts and things remain the same, but much has changed, specifically around research, golems, aspects, and all kinds of stuff has kind of changed quite a bit. Aura nodes are quite different. If you haven't been following along in my Forgecraft 2 series, this will all be new to you. But don't worry, like normal, I'm going to go through all the details of Thaumcraft 4, show you guys how it works, how to get started, and how to have a lot of fun playing with some really cool magical stuff. Let's get going. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to craft in Thaumcraft 4 is your most basic wand. The iron-capped wooden wand is pretty much the simplest wand you can make. There's some upgrades later down the line, but in order to get this thing, you're going to need 2 iron caps, which are just simply iron nuggets. And you're going to want to place them on either end of a stick. Any kind of stick will do. Okay. Once you've got your iron-capped wand, you're also going to want a bookshelf. Place the bookshelf in the world, and then right-click the bookshelf with your wand. And ta-da! You've got the Thaumonomicon. Everything you're going to need to know about Thaumcraft is in the Thaumonomicon. And as you research and learn new and interesting things about Thaumcraft, they will be added to the research nodes in your Thaumonomicon. So this is your player guide to Thaumcraft. It's pretty much going to tell you everything you need to know. Basic information tab on the left here will give you details about aspects of magic, how they work, auras and nodes, what you need to know about auras, and then how to do research. And it's also going to show you how you get other stuff. It's going to tell you about some of the ores and the plants and trees and some of the enchantments that are available. And then as you start to unlock things through research, which we'll get to in just a little bit, you'll be able to see what's going on in these research nodes down here, and they'll tell you how to make different and new items, how to do different mechanics, and all that kind of cool stuff. So that's how you get started with Thaumcraft. You're going to want to get yourself a Thaumonomicon and your iron-capped wooden wand. The next step on your journey will be finding some of the world gen ores. Now, different biomes have different higher chances of spawning ores. For example, you'll find more fire ores in the desert biome, but you can pretty much find every ore in every biome. It's just higher quantities across the board. Now, these drop like redstone in that whenever you break them, you'll get anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 of them, and I think it is impacted by looting, so if you happen to have looting on your pick, you'll get a few more shards. Once you've got at least one of each shard, you'll be able to make yourself a thermometer. Let's see what the thermometer is all about. Right here, it's easy to see how to make it, and it tells you what it does. So let's get ourselves a thermometer. It's a simple workbench recipe, so you can use a vanilla crafting table or any other vanilla crafting mechanic to get yourself a thermometer. Let's get one now to show you guys what it does. The thermometer is your way to read information about the world, and it will also help you find aura nodes. Let's go look around and find ourselves an aura node, and then I'll show you guys how to scan items with the thermometer. So the thermometer is used for a couple different things. One of those things is being able to see different pieces of the environment that you wouldn't normally be able to see. For example, aura nodes. Aura nodes, as you can see here, are just barely visible if you don't have your thermometer handy. However, if you do look at them through a thermometer, you'll be able to see them pretty clearly. You can even see them through blocks. So if we go ahead and build up blocks around this, we'll see that you can see the aura node through blocks. So if they happen to be underground, not a problem. Pretty cool, right? So you can see them at a range of a decent enough range. Even from a pretty good distance away, you can see them. But it's not an infinite range. It's just a good way. Aura nodes, if you want to, you can read all about them in the Thaumonomicon, are basically the storage units of all the magical energy in the environment. And we can use the aura nodes to charge our wand. It's really pretty easy. Wands each can store different amounts of V, which is the magical energy, and this V will charge up the wands and then be used for all kinds of different magical purposes. And there's actually a lot of use for the magic, so you'll get very used to draining the V out of the nodes. First off, you want to see on the top left interface with your wand that you have 6 little storage units. Those represent the 6 primal aspects. We can see here in the aspects and magic research section that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 primal aspects. Now there's many other aspects available that are combinations of these. For example, Ordo plus air is the modus aspect, and that's going to be used later down the line when we get into the research and stuff. But for now, what you want to focus on is the primal aspects, and the 6 of them that can each be stored in your wand. Most aura nodes are made up of just primal aspects, but you will find some with some of the more advanced aspects. Simply hold right-click on the thermometer, and you'll see what primal aspects are inside this node. We can see here that this node happens to store 29 fire and 29 earth. These are each primal aspects, as we saw. It's ignis and terra. So we can see here that we've got a decent amount of this V inside this node. Let's go ahead and store it in our wand. Simply hold right-click, and you'll start draining the V out of the node. And you can see on the top left interface there, my wand is getting filled up with the red and green bars, which is the ignis and terra. Once we've filled up our ignis, it'll focus on just the terra, and once that's filled, it'll stop draining. My wand is now full of ignis and terra, but the other 4 aspects are still empty. We'll also note that we only have 4 ignis and 5 terra remaining in the node. If we were to completely drain that node out, it might not recharge, but if you leave at least 1 of each aspect in the node, it will recharge. As we just saw, Terra started to recharge itself, and every so often it'll come back. There are different types of nodes, as you can see. This one is labeled normal. You might find bright nodes, which recharge faster, and you might find dark nodes that recharge slower. There's actually about 5 or 6 different types of nodes, and I'll show you some more of the rarer ones later on in the spotlight. But for now, just note that you can charge your wand once you've found a few nodes and start draining some of the V out of them. The other thing you might not have noticed when I did this is that I got research points. Now, if you look on the bottom right-hand corner of my screen as I scanned, you'll see that I'm gaining research points. In this case, when I scanned sand, I got 1 research point for Terra and 1 research point for Perdito. Everywhere you go, you can scan blocks or items. Some blocks you might not have the knowledge to research or understand the items. So we can see here when I tried to scan grass, it says you do not have all the knowledge required to understand this. If I try and scan leaves, we get the same message. I wonder how I'll do with cobblestone. Oh good, I was able to get that. You'll also note that I discovered saxum, which is another type of aspect. You can see on the bottom right corner we've got Perdito and saxum now. Saxum is not one of the primal aspects, and if we look at our aspects and magic screen right here, we'll come through and see that we discovered saxum. It's a combination aspect. If you combine terra and terra, you get saxum. Cool. So basically what happens is every aspect outside of the primals is a combination of 2 primal aspects, or it's a combination of 2 other aspects. So we might combine saxum with something else to get yet another aspect. There's a lot more. Any block that is made up of a aspect that you don't have yet discovered in your Thaumonomicon can't yet be scanned. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is travel across the world and start scanning all kinds of different blocks. Early on, many of these blocks won't be scannable, but don't worry. As you start scanning more and more stuff, you'll be able to scan even more. So I'm going to run around and scan a few items, and then I'll get back to you guys. Oh look, we just got 6 research points for aqua. Now you don't have to just scan blocks, you can also scan items. So we can come here and we can see that cobblestone is available to be scanned. We already scanned it in block form, but don't worry about that. Go ahead and drop down a fire shard. Let's see what we get off of that. Oh, we don't have everything we need to know about fire shards yet. How about air shards? Nope, not quite yet there either. I just scanned this torch and found that I gained the research for lux. What's that all about? Well, lux, as we can see here, is a combination of air and fire. Cool. So because I knew about air and fire, I was able to scan and discover lux. But I wasn't able to scan and discover other things because I didn't have the base components of them. I also discovered metallum because I had saxum already, and I had ordo. Since I had the base aspects that make it up, I was able to scan it and discover it. So what can I do with all these research points? Well, I can research. You can see the research notes here in your Thaumonomicon. It tells you what you have to do. Basically, you have to take and get your thermometer and start scanning stuff in the world like I've shown you. Then you're going to want to go ahead and get yourself some scribing tools. No big deal. And place them on top of some benches. So why don't I, instead of making you read all this crazy stuff, show you how to do research in the world. It's really not too bad. Simply craft yourself a pair of tables and place them next to each other. And then place some scribing tools on the table. and you'll have the research table. You're also going to need some paper to write down all your research notes. You can see here on the left we've got some research available. So unlike the previous versions of Thaumcraft, where you had to burn up items and destroy them in the crafting table in order to research them, this one's not the same. In this version of Thaumcraft, you simply need to scan items with the thermometer, and then once you've discovered stuff about the item, you can go ahead and start researching with it. So I don't really understand research tables yet. Let's find a couple other things and see if we have any other luck. Cactus? Nope, not yet. However, what we can do if we want to is start combining our aspects. So for example, earlier I told you that if you combine air and order, you'll discover the aspect of modus. Let's do that now. Place them both here by just clicking on them on the left and hit the purple button to combine them. You'll see down on the bottom right, we gained 2 research points for modus, and we've discovered modus. Cool. Now I've got the modus aspect, and I know all about it. It also stores this in your Thaumonomicon under the aspects of magic, so you can look it up in the future. Believe me, this is going to be useful. You're going to want to remember how to do these different combinations, because you will need to do them for when you want to research. We also discovered earlier that light is made up of ignis and air. So let's combine a couple of these. And you'll see on the bottom right that I gained 1 research point for lux each time I did that, and the research points went up. Let's see if we can discover anything using lux. Simply place lux by itself in this table here, and then click the green arrow. If there's anything that's available to be researched, you'll get a research note. In this case, we got the research note for nitor. Cool. Once that occurs, you know that lux is part of this research, so you should go ahead and add the lux symbol again to the table. What that'll do is it'll illuminate one of these different symbols with the color of that aspect. I happen to know that probably fire is going to be part of this as well. Yup, it is. Because it says it's a mystical flame, that was a good giveaway that the ignis was part of this. Now, if you happen to choose a symbol that's not part of this research, you'll note that it does not get added to the right-hand side, and we see a little red X here. So part of research is figuring things out. You also might get a red herring. Red herrings are aspects that kind of make sense, and you would think they would be there, but they're really not part of it. However, it does remove some of the symbols from the page to kind of help you out a little bit. Red herrings are basically not part of the research, though. So you can see here that we're using up research points as well every time we do this. So we're losing every time we try and research something. So check out my metallum. I've got 4. When I hit the green arrow, now I've got 3. So part of this little mini game is remembering which symbols have lit up. What you want to do next is start moving them around. Simply click on a symbol and move it. You'll see which symbols or spaces it can be moved to because they'll be circled right here like so. Your goal is to take the glowing blue dot and connect it to the non-glowing dots on the research nodes using the little symbols that are glowing to connect them. These symbols can bridge a gap of about 1 space. So let's take a look. Now you can't move glowing symbols. You'll see here active runes cannot be moved on the bottom right. So we have to remove them by clicking on this button. What we want to do now is move this into position. Now this lux symbol should connect to this glowing dot, and then it will connect down to this red one, which will connect down to the bottom here. Ta-da! Once we've connected the 2 dots, we get our discovery, nitor, mystical flame. You might have also noticed that I completely ran out of the lux symbol. So if I need to get more lux, I'll need to combine ignis and air. Now that I've got some research, I can right-click it to discover the information. Research completed for nitor. If we look in our Thaumonomicon, we should have nitor available. You can see which tab has the newest research available because it'll be glowing on the left. Here we go. Nitor, the mystical flame. It shows us how to craft this in a crucible. Crucibles are discovered here. It's real easy. Simply take your iron-capped wooden wand and click on a cauldron to make a crucible. I highly recommend that early on in your Thaumic career you run around and scan everything. Scan animals, scan water, scan grass, everything you can get your hands on, because you're going to need all the research points you can find. Also, the less often you have to add and remove things to the research table, the less of the research tools you'll use. So definitely run around, make sure that you scan everything you can get your hands on. And then if you really get stuck, try and start combining some of the primal aspects into some of the more advanced aspects, and that'll open up more things for you to be able to scan. Finally, you should continue to scan things, including things that you've crafted, because typically you'll get the aspects from the items that went into the crafting recipe. For example, if we scan a vanilla furnace, we should find that we've got similar aspects to what's available on the cobblestone that went into it. So we put 8 cobblestone into a vanilla furnace recipe, and we find that we have 8 times the aspects of what cobblestone would give. The furnace also happens to give a little bit of ignis because it's one of those blocks that burns things. So basically, keep an eye out for anything that you can scan, be it items that spawn in the world, items that you drop on the ground and just want to take a look at, or items that you've crafted. Another good thing to do is make sure to carry around, if you notice on my bottom right corner, it tells me I've discovered a clue to new research. Make sure to carry around scribing tools and paper in your inventory, because as you're scanning items, you might get that new research clue. Let's take a look. Oh, looks like I found the research notes for wand foci. Cool. So make sure to carry them around. It's not a huge buff, but if you happen to have the scribing tools and the paper in your inventory, you will randomly get research notes that you can just bring to the table and start looking at. So one more little bit of tip for you guys when it comes to doing research. Sometimes you'll have research with more than just 2 nodes that need to be connected. So you're going to want to connect these in a straight line. You can't go over to this one and then go down to the left and up to the right. That won't work. You need to go from one node to the next sequentially. So I'm going to move these aspects around and see if we can't get this to work. Uh-oh, we ran into a problem here. We've got a connection happening here, and it's going around a corner like this. As a tip, use one of the research blocks points here to block it. And you'll see that now it's connecting up and over. Once that's working, we can move things out of the way. Uh-oh, we've ran out of potentia. What are we going to do? Don't worry, you can simply combine potentia. In this case, I happen to know that potentia, according to my Thaumonomicon, is a combination of ordo and ignis. So grab your ordo and ignis. You'll typically have more of the base components earlier on, and combine them. Then you can use it again to research, and we've completed our research for one of the wand foci. Speaking of, why don't I start showing you guys some of the new nifty gadgets and toys that are available in Thaumcraft. This pretty much wraps up everything you need to know about research. The only other thing I'll tell you is that eventually your scribing tools will run out of ink, and you won't be able to do anything in the table until you refill them. Simply take your scribing tools out, get yourself some ink, and combine them in a crafting table, and it will refill the scribing tools for you. Now that I've shown you guys the basics of how to do research, I'm going to go ahead and give myself a Thaumonomicon cheat sheet. This is only available in creative mode or through NEI. There's no crafting recipe for this, but it's useful for cheating because it allows you to open all the research notes available in your Thaumonomicon. And boy, let me tell you guys, there's quite a lot available out there. There's tons of stuff. Let me show you guys one more aspect of research. One of the things you'll be able to get is research expertise. This allows you to move up to 3 runes instead of up to 2. So runes can be moved 3 spaces instead of 2 at a time. Okay. You can also get research mastery, which is even better because it allows you to move runes up to 4 positions at a time, and you're also able to move active runes 1 position at a time. So once you've got research mastery, those runes that are active can be moved 1 step at a time. However, there's a random chance that it'll deactivate the rune when you do that, but it's very useful to get. So I highly recommend getting research mastery earlier on. You're also going to want to get a deconstruction table. This is a very useful tool. Sometimes you will run out of some of the base aspects. So if you get yourself a deconstruction table, and you place an item in it, for example, we'll place some cobblestone in there. It's going to slowly but surely destroy that cobblestone. So it is still possible to destroy items. However, it's a very rare chance that you'll get one of the primal aspects that make this up. Now remember, the primal aspect on this guy is Perdito, but he's also got some Saxum on there. Let's see what's involved in Saxum, just in case we forgot. Terra. So pretty much your chances of getting either Perdito or Terra from this cobblestone, again, they're kind of low, but it's pretty neat looking. You can see the ghost of that item kind of floating above the table as it's being deconstructed. Cool. Once you're lucky enough to get one, you will see the Terra symbol there, and it'll stop deconstructing items. So as soon as you get one of the primal aspects, it'll stop working until you open up this interface and click on Terra. You'll note on the bottom right that I gained a research point for Terra. So if you're completely stuck and out of primal aspects, start breaking down some items, and you will get a few more aspect nodes. But trust me when I tell you, there's plenty of things in the world to scan that will get you lots and lots of research points. Now that I've shown you the basics of research, why don't I show you the basics of crafting? I'm going to show you one of the first items you're going to want to craft once you've discovered the research for it, and that is the Goggles of Revealing. The Goggles of Revealing, like in Thaumcraft 3, allow you to walk around the world and kind of see as if you were looking through a thermometer. Let's craft them right here. It's really pretty easy. However, we're going to need an arcane work table, which is easy enough to make. Place one of those tables on the ground and click it with the wand. Ta-da! As soon as you do that, your wand will be placed in the top right corner here. You can go ahead and pull it out and still use it. You're also going to want to make sure that your wand has some aspects in it. You can see this wand is almost fully charged with everything. It's a little short on Terra, but we've got enough. You can also see at the top by holding Shift the exact number of the aspects that are stored in the wand. Let's go ahead and craft this item. As you can see, the recipe tells you that you need to do this on an arcane workbench. It's going to require these items placed out just like you would in a work table. However, you need to infuse this recipe with a little bit of magic, and that's done and listed on the bottom with the different aspects that are required. Again, you're only ever going to need primal aspects, at least as of the time of this recording. These primal aspects will be used and drawn from your wand. If you don't have enough of the items on the wand, you won't be able to craft the item. So make sure you have at least 5 air, ignis, water, and earth, and 3 of Perdito and Ordo. Let's go ahead and put this recipe together. We're going to need the gold, the leather, and the thermometers. You'll see here that it's flashing, indicating that it's missing those aspects. Placing your wand back in the right-hand corner on the top shows that each aspect is now stable. But note that it's using more than what was originally requested. I thought I only needed 5 water. Well, you can see here that the iron-capped wooden wand is the most basic wand, and the V cost of everything you're going to do with this wand is 110%. So it costs 10% more than it would have if you had a better wand. Some wands have even lower costs. Let's go ahead and craft by just clicking the Goggles of Revealing on the right. Now we've got them, and you can see that it drained the V out of the wand. My wand is no longer full, and I'm going to have to find some more aura nodes and start draining them. Easier to find, though, now because I've got the Goggles of Revealing, and I can find them quickly and easily. Excellent. Also note that wearing the Goggles of Revealing help you to see what aspects are stored in the node. Real easily to find. That's not all your wand is going to be used for, because you're also going to want to get yourself some wand foci. Once you've discovered the basics of wand foci, you can make some others. For example, the basic wand foci shows us here that if we were to get a fire charge, some fire shards, and some quartz, and quite a bit of fire and Perdito on our wand, we should be able to make a wand focus of fire. Let's try it out. There we go. And I'm able to craft the wand focus of fire. Having that in your inventory and selecting your wand, you can click the F key on your keyboard by default to swap out your wand focus. Now that that focus is attached to the wand, you can use it by holding right click. You'll see, however, that it's draining V, and once you've run out of your fire aspect, you can no longer cast. You can see which V it's going to drain by removing the wand focus and mousing over. You'll see it uses 0.1 ignis per tick. You can also see that by watching on the top left. Once you equip that wand focus, you'll note that there's a little arrow that adds to the bottom right of the fire aspect symbol. So that indicates that it's going to use it. Holding shift shows you how much. So in this case, it's using 0.11. Remember, this wand is not very efficient because it's the most basic wand, so it's adding 10%, which is why it's going to use 0.11 on this wand instead of just 0.1 as indicated on the tooltip. Don't forget, you can simply recharge your wand and then use that wand again, at least until you run out of the aspects that are required. There's quite a few different wand foci. Let's take a look at a couple of the fun ones that are my favorite. We've got excavation, we've got wand of equal trade, and we've got portable hole. Simply click F to cycle through all the different wand foci you have available, and you'll quickly note that you need different types of aspects and different types of V in order to cast these spells. So if we want to dig with the wand focus of excavation, we easily can, but it's going to drain some of the Terra V. If we want to have a portable hole, not a problem. Just note how much V it's going to use to make that happen. Again, to remove your wand aspect, Shift and F. You can also get yourself a foci pouch, and all your aspect foci will be stored in the pouch, and you can access them from within the pouch. One final note about aura nodes. Sometimes you might have one that's just in your way. You'd like to build something there, or there's just an aura node that's causing trouble and you want to get rid of it. They can be destroyed. Simply break them. It takes a little bit, but eventually, they're gone. And with that, guys, we're going to wrap up part 1 of the Thaumcraft 4 Spotlight. There's a lot more to cover, but we've already covered the basics. We know how to drain V out of aura nodes. We know how to research. We know how to store V in our wand and use it in a few different ways, but we don't know all the details about it. There's plenty more to see and do in Thaumcraft 4. However, we've hit about the 30-minute mark, and that's usually where I like to wrap up my spotlights. So stay tuned for part 2 of the Thaumcraft 4 Spotlight. In part 2, we're going to cover things like crucibles, how to use them. We're going to cover things like infusion crafting, and we're going to definitely check out a couple of the other cool toys and gadgets that Aznor has added for us, including golems and a few other things. Alright guys, this is Direwolf20 signing off on Thaumcraft 4 Mod Spotlight Part 1. Hope you've enjoyed it, and take it easy!